Me being in and out of mental health in the past, I lost custody of my children.
Hello, everybody, to the DMV and beyond. Welcome to Positive Voices. I'm your co-host, Malachi Stewart.
Hi, and I'm T. Pearson Hall.
And today we're excited to be really honored to have this conversation. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the intersectionality, or the connection, if you will, between mental illness and HIV. And this is a really interesting conversation. I'm so glad to have our guests, honored to have our beautiful guests,
Yes.
Phil and Dominique. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome. Thank you.
I want you both to introduce yourselves to the audience and tell them a little bit just about how your experience lends to the topic of mental illness and HIV. So I'll start with you, Phil. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you relate to the topic.
I'll start in 2016. So really, 2013, I was diagnosed with HIV on World AIDS Day at my church, right?
Okay.
And at that point, it was pretty hard where I had to go straight to work after that.
Wow.
So the person was just like, yo, this is what it is, and I'll just send you to, my church is in Virginia, so they were just like, I'll send you to the Department of Health in Virginia, Alexandria, at whatever point. And so thankfully, when I went to work, my manager, I was like, yo, I'm not working out in the front. I was in retail at the time. And I told him, I disclosed to him what the situation was going on. And he was like, okay, thank you for sharing. Like, I'm also HIV positive.
Wow.
He's also married, him and his husband, but his husband is negative. And so shout out to Brandon. So they're a great couple. They're doing the daggone thing.
I think they said we could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm not your traditional therapist. I do the same thing in my sessions, but honestly, so Brandon was just like, yo, come with me to support group, helping us, and I went, and that's where I met, the late great Dr. Ron Simmons, and a few other of my peers and colleagues. So ever since then. And I remember we had this one session with, it was a mixed group. So we had our seasoned brothers. And for me, I grew up in a situation where I'm an 80s baby. So I remember when my grandmother passed, the pastor at the time was very kind of evil per se, just very hateful. And we didn't understand why, but kind of find out just a month later, he passed from AIDS.
Wow.
And so I understood that situation. So that's what I saw growing up. And so to see these brothers grow up, to live through all of that up to this point in 2013, 2014, that was amazing. That gave me hope at that moment. Because for me, all I knew was I'm going to die. And then the carry on to 2016, for me, I attempted suicide. That was my 13th time. My 12th time was in college, undergrad. At that moment, I OD'd and woke up in the bed. I was strapped down. My mother was there, so apparently they called my mother, and we both lied.
Right.
We told the doctor it was my first time.
Right.
Of course, she knew what the deal was, but like anybody else, we keep everything here in the house. So it was either, you're going to go to the psych ward or see a therapist. I said, I'll see a therapist. Yeah. So, and I went to Hampton. So it was a private institution. So I didn't know am I going to get kicked out or what? So I did what I had to do. Didn't tell her to do much of anything. I was just I'm just going along with the whole ride. And so I still had my own demons and things that I was dealing with. And mind you, in college, I was drinking and smoking weed every day while doing homework. Still active on campus, but still just self-medicating and not knowing what's going on, being promiscuous and so forth. It was a goal for mine to sleep with everybody. If you talk to my friends, they know I ran the Hampton Roads area, if you get what I'm saying. So...
Not to interrupt you, Phil, but when you say you were medicating, what were you self-medicating? Was it the mental illness? Was it other
things? Was just feeling depressed. There was times there was times I was engaged twice. I was engaged to a drug dealer, a stripper. I was in another relationship it was just being in pain of growing up without a father who left on my 4th birthday. At the same time, when I first got really depressed was when my grandparents passed when I was 8 years old. Same year, and those were like my best friends, my confidants. So my grandfather passed around Easter in '92. My grandmother passed a day or two after Christmas that same year, and I was the last person to speak with her. And so all these things, we call them adverse childhood experiences. Trump, you know what I'm saying? So ACE. I was molested as a child. I started drinking as a child. A lot of things nobody knows. So even in college, a point where I would try to sell my body to get money. Even in 2012, I caught a DUI charge and went to jail because when my close uncle passed, when drinking with my bros, wanted to go home, and here I was, you know what I'm saying, caught that case. And so just blacking out, going to work, drunk, sleeping in the store. No one knew about that. So many different things. I've been raped numerous times. In my 20s, that was a blur. Went to grad school, still partying. So there's so many different things. Even when I was homeless in 2012, that summer, sleeping in my car, and even like in Virginia, I was across the street literally from my aunt's house, and no one knew. I wasn't even talking to my family at the time, and there'd be times even when I had a little money for unemployment, I would get a room from a motel, even times sleep for money. Like family don't even know that. So there's a lot of like stories, like things I've dealt with that no one knows. So like, yeah, just trials and tribulations. But at the end of the day, like, it's a blessing for me because being diagnosed with HIV led me to identify like my diagnosis in 2016. That 13th time, it was like my last resort. So I said, let me go to the psychiatric hospital. I had a bad experience with a social worker that time during the intake. She looked at my stature as a Black man and was like questioning me how I acquired HIV. And here I am. I was not only suicidal, but homicidal. And this is a short white woman from Prince George's County. And so I was just like, I told the doctor, he took care of it. But ever since then, I told myself, I've never let that happen again to anybody. Didn't know how that was going to happen. I just never let that happen. Needless to say, I went there twice that year. But that Saturday, before I was discharged, I spoke to the behavioral health tech. His name was Fred. And he was like, he's a blessing. We had a conversation about our faith. And he said one thing that one of his ministers growing up told him was to stand still. That was that Saturday. That Sunday, my pastor preached a sermon titled Stand Still. And so ever since then, for those months, dealing with my case manager and stuff, all I did was just stood still. Didn't do anything, just prayed, meditated, even when I got home. So just to remind you, something other grief. While I was in the hospital, I had to say goodbye to my dog via FaceTime. I had to fight for that before she was put to sleep. And so many things was going on.
Yeah.
And then, so I had an anxiety attack when I got home that day. So it was just a lot, just darkness for me. But through those months, I came across a lot of friends who were social workers, friends of friends who were social workers. So I was like, yo, this must be a sign. And prayed about it, applied, went to school, knocked those 2 years out, graduated with my second master's, got licensed, and like here I am today and becoming an advocate, got into the field, and like I'm walking in my purpose, man. Like it's a blessing. So yeah,
We definitely celebrate that as a success story.
I know that's a long. I'm the worst storyteller. So
No, you did great. Listen, we are here making space, holding space for your story.
Yes.
There's some things that you mentioned that I want to unpack, but first I do want to kind of hear your story,
That's
Dominique.
what I was going to say. The same
And just
thing.
hear like, how does
circle
your story
back.
relate to the topic of mental illness, HIV?
Well, my name is Dominique, but my friends and family call me Damo.
Okay, Damo.
Can we call you Damo?
Yes, y'all more than
Damo today. We're friends and family, baby.
Hey, Damo.
Hey, everybody. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I'm a Washingtonian.
Period.
I grew up uptown. I went to Cardozo,
Okay.
and I'm 42.
And you look good.
And I have a 21-year-old son going to Maryland U.
Ow, I'm a Terp. Come on, Terps.
I have a 14-year-old.
Okay.
And I have a 10-year-old best friend.
Aw.
His name is Kenneth.
Okay.
And what I have to say about the topic is I was diagnosed with HIV when I was 25 years old. This was back in 2007. At the time, I only had one child. So my child was about 6 or 7. And I got diagnosed. Well, I was with someone that I grew up with. I've known him since I was like 15. I didn't know he was on the DL until the person that he was sleeping with called my phone and told me to go get tested. Because
Now, for people who don't know, what does DL mean?
DL means on the DL, sleeping with gay men or some down low.
Down low.
Or some men are bisexual and don't tell the women that they sleep with gay men.
Got it.
So I didn't know he was bisexual. But we were friends. I grew up with him. I known him since I was 15. We went to high school together. So you wouldn't think it didn't run across my mind. I was just young. I was 26. You know, I was working at Starbucks and on U Street. I had a son and I wanted to expand my family. I wanted to get married. Like I was in love. Like this is the person that I didn't like in high school. And now we are together and everything is going good. So we were in the process of applying for our marriage license.
Oh, wow.
And I kept getting sick. So I stayed home for about a week. I just wasn't feeling good. I started coughing. I started coughing up blood. And then the next day I said, well, I think it's a cold.
Yeah.
It'll go away. So I went to work and I passed out at work. And they took me to Howard.
Wow.
So the people come in talking about, hey, such and such and such. This is the people from Sidmar. Would you like to get an HIV test? Of course I say yes.
Right.
Because I haven't been tested in 3 or 4 years. I was young. I was doing me. I was doing me, made a lot of mistakes. So I take the test. Back then, they do the swab of the mouth.
Right.
So I do, and I think they still do the swab. Am I correct?
Yes,
Some
or sure.
places do.
Or-sure. So I take the or-sure. So the guy comes in from Sidmar, was like, hey, Miss Anthony, I have to talk to you about your test results. I said, okay. Well, just give me my piece of paper and send me on my way and I can get out. He said, no.
I'm saying no.
I need to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, spit it out. He was like, ma'am, you are HIV positive. I looked at him and asked him to test me 6 times.
Wow.
Because I couldn't believe it. But because I felt like I was a female Tupac. That I couldn't get nothing. All eyes on me.
Yeah.
See, I was the young girl that dated the older men that chased after the older guys with money and looking at how, well, if I can talk to this old head, let me see what I can get from him. Let me get let me get this money from him. Yeah.
You was the city girl.
Yeah.
I was a city girl.
Before JT and them.
The original.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I felt like, okay, well, hey, you know what I'm saying? Me and him the same age. He about to be a police. And you know what's scary? He was about to be a police. But he died.
He died.
He died in 2008 from chronic alcoholism. He drank himself to death
Wow.
because he couldn't deal with the fact that he gave me HIV.
Mental health.
And we were all close. And he died. It devastated me for about a whole 2 years. I wouldn't come out. I was so depressed. Like, I felt so bad because I'm like, how you gonna give me something and then you gonna leave me? Like, you really lost your mind. You don't do that to a person. But then, you know, I went to places like the Women's Collective with Pat Knowles, and I went to I started going to Us Helping Up. That's how I met Phil.
Okay. Well, shout out to Us Helping Us.
And
I ain't doing the work.
I also started going to HIPS.
Okay.
I'm a part of the chosen few for HIPS.
Okay.
And I'm also going to be a part of the Sex Workers Coalition, working on the decriminalization campaign for sex work and drugs.
Awesome.
My dream job is to work at Department of Health. I would like to get my degree in health administration and get my certificate in project manager.
Okay, school.
And I attend Academy of Hope in DC.
Congratulations.
Yes.
I love that both of your stories end on a positive note.
I also have a mental health diagnosis.
Tell us about it.
Well, when I started having mental health diagnosis when I was 15. So I had ADHD. When I turned 21, I had my nervous breakdown. I was in and out the hospital before I was 20 because I had my son in 2002. He's 21 now. So I've came a long way. I lost my mental health because of me being in and out of mental health in the past. I lost custody of my children.
I'm sorry.
I'm speaking. It's nothing to be sorry about because I did it to myself. So every action has a consequence.
Come on, somebody. That's what I tell my children.
I'm a survivor. I'm not a pity party. I'm not gonna sit here and keep throwing myself pity parties for what?
And I hear you taking accountability.
So how do you come back from it? Well, I went to school. Well, I'm gonna tell you something else. Due to my mental health, I got incarcerated.
Talk about that.
2016, I was incarcerated. But guess what? When I came home from jail, I had a job. I went to school. I had several jobs. I was a peer educator for HIPS. When I became a returning citizen, they told me when I left the jail, when they released me, they said, you coming back? I ain't never been back.
Come on now. Come on now.
Because I learned now that I'm a returning citizen, I can be a part of the solution and be a part of this community. Because DMV, we need it the most.
Yes.
We have the highest rate of HIV and AIDS out here. It's people dying from fentanyl.
Yeah.
You know how many people we've lost? We're at a crisis in this city. So it's places like Department of Health and HIPS and Women's Collective and Us Helping Us and SKA, all those organizations, they make a difference. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I am stronger. I take the Cabenuva. I'm in treatment. I'm in treatment for my HIV and my mental health.
And it's so important for you to say that because I was hearing your story, and I want to ask this to both of you. I'll shoot it to you first, Phil. Do you feel that in the time where you weren't acknowledging and treating, because let's be Black for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
And let's honor the fact that in the Black community, there is stigma. It's not just stigma around HIV. There's stigma around mental illness.
It is.
There's stigma around getting treated for it. People would rather see you out here using a substance, drinking, having sex, engaging in what we would call high-risk behavior than saying, I'm diagnosed with bipolar and I need to get treatment. I need that is more, there's more stigma around that than it is to say I'm alcoholic even sometimes in the community. Do you feel like because in those moments you weren't like engaging in treatment, that encouraged you to kind of, or that you felt like you were exposed to more high-risk behaviors that sort of led to you contracting HIV?
I would say yes. So it wasn't until after being diagnosed and learning and being educated about my diagnosis that I put things two and two together.
Right.
As far as like risky behavior, being promiscuous with sex, the substance use, and so forth, in my manic episodes and things of that nature. So it all made sense. And then I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then, of course, having blackouts. And like Dominique said, like, you know, taking accountability, like, I'm a survivor. I didn't say it's okay to rape me when I'm blacked out or under the influence, you know, just pissy drunk.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you know, I was drunk. Like, I did what I did. I was high. So I take part, you know, I accept my part in the situation. That's why even when, you know, people say like, when you're diagnosed with HIV, like I'll tell people like I don't care or think about, well, how did I acquire it or who did I acquire it from? That's the last thing that I'm thinking about. And I share the same thing with clients. We're focusing on you, not even thinking about that. Like, how can we move forward and take care of you?
Can I mention just thank you? I want to say shout out to the churches that's doing testing events because I heard you say that earlier. So when you got your diagnosis at church, like I can imagine knowing that you had to go to work was like really like, well, I really gotta go to work.
Right.
So was there a thought in your head though to like not go to work and like seclude immediately? Or was it like I have to still try to keep myself busy and I'm gonna keep just going forward and go to work?
The thought of not going to work wasn't in my mind. It was just go to work.
Okay, work ethic.
I've always been a workaholic.
Okay, work ethic.
But I was just in shock. I'll say that. Because when he was like, the first time he said, just look, like, what do you see? And I was just like, 2 dots. Like, what's your point? And so he was like, well, it's reactive, so we're going to do it again. I said, okay. At the same time, I'm sitting out in the hallway. Everybody's leaving.
The longest 15, 20 minutes ever.
And I go back again. He's like, okay, it's reactive again, so this is what we're going to do. Same situation as anybody. I've heard stories. No empathy, nothing. It's just like, this is what it is, blah, 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 and keep it moving.
Yeah.
No one's consoling you. Like, I was just like, again, in shock. Like you're speechless. Like, you don't know what to say, like how you feel. And so it's kind of like when anyone's talking, it's like Charlie Brown's like teacher, like wah, 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 wah.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got to work until I had a conversation with my manager, who was also a good friend of mine. So, yeah.
Divine intervention, right? So shout out to you and thank you. And you, Dominique, for sharing your stories, right? Because you guys are like being real raw and transparent with us. And we all appreciate it, right? Okay. So, Dominique, for you both, right? And I think you had another question too, Malachi. Did I step on your toe?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Dominique, so when you, I heard you say you have 2 children, right? And so you had the 21-year-old when you
HIV positive now.
right, and so then you had another child after that. So could you share with us, if you're open to it, kind of what that decision looked like? Because when you came back from incarceration, you had to come home and deal with, you know, reconnecting with your child. Did you have both children when you were incarcerated? So like that was
No, I had my oldest.
just the oldest one, right?
Just the oldest one, and my 14-year-old was taken.
Oh,
The day I got, he was in foster care already.
wow.
But he's
okay.
adopted by his cousin, so I still get to talk to him and see him.
Okay, that's good.
So, but yeah, the choices I made led to me losing my children, coming home to nothing, and I take accountability for my actions because I knew that I needed mental health and I was in denial about a lot of things. I suffered from childhood trauma. I was molested when I was little by my mom's neighbor's son, his mother was my babysitter, so her son was always at the house. And I was 11. He was 30 years old at the time. And you know, back then, when a child is molested in D.C., they do an investigation. They did investigation. They do a rape kit. But they do not. Back then, 1992, they didn't have the sex offense registry, no sex offense laws. They were not tough as they are now. They didn't have that back then. I had to go to trial. I had to testify.
Which was traumatic. It's almost a re-traumatization.
Yeah.
Right? Having to go back and
Yes.
tell that story and stand in front of people.
I'm okay with it now.
Yeah.
Because I've came a long way.
And shout out to being empowered enough to speak your voice.
Yes.
That takes a lot.
So dealing with that, I also was a domestic violence survivor. I was with somebody, I had met someone, and at the time, you know, me and my parents were not seeing eye to eye. And I moved out of my parents' house because me and the person started getting close. And I knew in my heart that the person had some demons.
Yeah.
But I overlooked it because everybody deserves to be loved. Everybody deserves a second chance. So I started staying with him, and he was an alcoholic. He was a drug user. And he would treat me so terribly. One night, I was asleep. He got mad because I didn't want to have sex with him. Next thing I knew, he was on top of me, inside of me. He forced himself on top of me.
Wow.
And then when I fought him, he called the police and had me locked up.
Wow. Ooh.
So,
wow.
So, and then we would fight. I stayed with him I was with him during I was being abused. When the pandemic was going on, I was being abused.
Yeah, I've talked about that with other people. With that pandemic made things a lot worse.
Somebody that I was dating, I was being abused while everybody was in a pandemic worrying about money. I was worried about my life.
Yeah.
Because it got to the point that he abused me so much, and I kept it from my mom and my stepfather. I kept it from my family. Because if I would have told my uncles and everybody else, they would have went after him. But I said no. And then my son, who just turned 21, he was still in high school. And my son kept telling him, you got one more time to do something to my mother.
Yeah.
So one day, I have a sister who I call my sister. She was like, what is enough, Dominique? When are you gonna get tired? So what I did one day was I went to his house. I packed all the stuff I could take, my laptop, because I'm in school, my laptop, few medications. Matter of fact, I didn't even have no medicine. And I was on Victoria back then.
Yeah.
I left the medicines. I left everything. I took my wallet, my cell phone, my charger. Oh, I did pack medicine.
We thank you.
So I had the medicine. I remember.
You was like Tina Turner and Steve.
Yeah.
You was like, I gotta leave.
So I left, and I stayed at my girlfriend's house, and I stayed with her for a year, and I moved back I'm with my family now. I live with my mom and my stepdad.
Okay, family.
Shout out to mommy and
Shout
daddy.
out to mommy and daddy.
I love the mommy and daddy.
Right?
Dama, I'm glad. First of all, I'm proud of you for being able to find the strength to be able to choose yourself. And I'm glad that you are somewhere safe now.
Yes.
So I have a question for you both. And I'll share an experience that leads to the question. As an adherence specialist, in my days when I was an adherence specialist, one of the things that I found with patients who had mental health diagnosis, had mental illness diagnosis, is that sometimes if they weren't in a space where they were navigating that well, it affected their adherence to medication. Meaning like their ability to take it as prescribed by the doctors, their adherence to appointments. A lot of the program that I was in was made to go to people because sometimes people couldn't go to us. Sometimes they wake up and they're in the depressive state and they don't want to come out the house. and don't really know, want to live or take their medication. So we would have to go every day and just sit with them and help them take it. Or they would be in a manic state and just kind of just want to be out here in the streets. And so we would go out in these streets to wherever they were, have to do a pull-up. Did either of you ever find, and I'll start with you, Phil, did you ever find that intersectionality, or that there was a connection between how well you were doing with your mental health and how you engaged in your HIV care?
I would say yes. Even to this day, it still happens. I'll be honest, and I'm honest with my clients. To the point where either I'm depressed or just tired.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything, just tired, right? And I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything. Like, I just want to go to sleep, because not only am I taking a 1-pill regimen, right, for HIV, but I have a plethora of pills for psychotropics. So you're thinking about all these things you have to take, and it's like, damn, like, I just wanted to just chill. Like,
I never thought about that. I've always heard like medication exhaustion, but I've always thought about it from a perspective of HIV. Like, you saying that, it's the first time I ever thought about, like, oh wow, you have a lot more pills to take. Even if you're on a 1 pill a day regimen, you're not, because you have other pills to take.
right.
Yeah, got it.
And-
So, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
After you.
Yes. But I mean, but it's real talk. Like, and thankfully, the one that I'm on for my art med is what we call like the forgiving med. But yeah, like, it's okay. Like, I tell people it's okay if you miss a day or whatever. But I'm still like on top of everything. It's just like there's just sometimes if I'm ever manic and things, my family, they stay on top of it. They know, like, yo, if it's my attitude, my moods, or whatever, they're like, yo, when's the last time you took meds? Or whatever, because it's a drastic change, especially even if I'm out of my psychotropics, people don't realize it, but there's a thing called withdrawal symptoms from your psychotropics. And that's real. Within the first 2 or 3 days,
It's over.
oh, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Like, that is the worst feeling. When I tell you about nausea and just...
It's kind of like coming off a heroin.
Thank you. Yes.
Like a withdrawal.
It's literally
completely.
a withdrawal.
Yes.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, you just said what I was gonna say. But I do understand, right? And so, shared experience, right? So I have diagnosis too that make me kind of go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? But I too, right, have the household is like, she going off about small stuff. So my wife is just like, so did you take your medicine last night? So then I had a situation where I ran out of my prescription, but it's like, I'll call the doctor tomorrow. Tomorrow became 2 months.
Right.
I know it was 2 months because, the days seem like they come together when you start that spiral, right? And so then I spiraled. And I was like a curly fry, baby, up in there. I was twirling and Tasmanian deviling, right? The manic side. And so my question to you is, when you feel yourself now, right, get into that spiral, because we get to the point of understanding what our triggers are and kind of sometimes what it looks like when it's starting to flare up. Like, I can feel myself getting anxious or angry about the smallest stuff. So I'm like, let me go in the corner, right? And so versus what I did before. So when I heard you speak, you were saying the things that you were doing before, right, in your manic situation before you recognized and understood the diagnosis.
Right.
So like, now that you understand all of that, like, the manics still come, right? We know they still come knocking at the door, right? And so when they come to knock at the door and want that hawk to come out, what do you do now to kind of suppress the urge? Right? Because we know what makes us feel good when we're aspiring. So how do you now suppress that and like do something more healthier to protect yourself?
Honestly, I'm just getting back into like working out.
Ooh, I'll do that tomorrow.
My therapist said it's bad for me to do this one. I'm about to say is I do isolate at times. I do like my peace. as I'm getting old, I'll be 40 next year. Like,
Okay.
I'm about to be. Sometimes I just like to be at home, chilling, listening to music, and smoking my hookah.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. Like, just let me chill.
Yeah.
That's peace for me. Like,
Yeah.
just in my own space.
Healthy isolation.
Healthy, yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I just realized I got nicotine-free hookah, shisha, so maybe why not? But yeah, like, friends got me into hiking. Yeah, we'll just do things for fun. But yeah, I'm mainly like a real chill person. I just like my space.
I respect that. Thank you.
What about you, Damo? Do you find like when you're in a bad space mentally that it's hard to engage in care?
No, because I still go. I bug all the case managers and the case workers and bug the. I have a therapist who has really been helping me, and I really like him. So I blow him up. He's called. I've called him at 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Going through a crisis, and he's picked up that phone.
Okay.
And stayed on the phone with me till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
I love that though.
So
Yes.
plus I have my 9-year-old best friend. He keeps me on my toe. My 10-year-old, I'm sorry, he's 10 now.
Oh yeah, you gonna get in trouble.
My
You took that 1 year.
My 10-year-old best friend
Yes.
keeps me on my toes. He tells me he likes that song, Calm Down. So he plays that for me. I have my mom, my stepfather, of course. We don't say my dad.
Bonus dad.
Bonus dad, yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to my bonus dad, Lonnie, my mommy, Carrie. And I have my uncles I have all my uncles. I have my brother. I have a brother on my father's side. And I have a best friend. Shout out to him.
Go best friend. That's my best friend.
Yes, he's been riding with me through everything I've been through. I've been through a lot this year. The person I was going to marry was sleeping with my best friend. So I didn't even know. But hey, sometimes I take the bitter with the sweet.
Yeah.
She showed me her true colors.
Hello.
He showed me his true colors. And I was hurt, but guess what? I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm on this platform.
Hello.
They going
And
in.
you are.
Hello. What you say? You want positive voices?
I'm
Get
on
with it.
voices. Like
Yes.
God has blessing me with, since I got rid of the toxic people out of my life, God has been blessing me with so many opportunities, so many things I have going on. My dream job is to work for the Department of Health. I would like to get my college degree in healthcare administration. I would like to be a project manager for the Department of Health. I also want to own a medical cannabis dispensary for chronic illnesses in the
Period.
DMV. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to, because I'm a returning citizen, I did an open house with Georgetown Business Center, and they have a bit entrepreneurship class that they provide for returning citizens to start their own business.
Come on now.
So I got an opportunity to meet a lot of people that went through the program. So I actually signed up for the program. So I'm just waiting to see if I got accepted. So then I also met some people that were returning citizens like me, who were in the paralegal program for Georgetown. And I didn't know that with so many learning that life, the things that we go through in life, sometimes could be the best thing that happens to us. Because we can get so much positive things out of it. And I never knew who would have thought me, a returning citizen, a Black woman. Let's keep that up front.
Hello.
Let's talk about it.
A Black woman, HIV diagnosis, mental health diagnosis, returning citizen, who would not still be locked up. I could have still been locked up. I could have still been being promiscuous. Still just running through guys. But I'm not. I have, I've learned from my mistakes, and I try to tell all these young girls and these young girls and these little girls that that's not cool. That's running through guys is not You don't let everybody in your temple. Like your temple is your jewel. You don't
Temple is your jewel.
you don't let everybody in your temple. You don't. It's not cool to sleep with this guy. Because what if you you getting pregnant, it's not too bad. But what if you get HIV? Do you want to take pills like I do?
Right.
Do
And I
you
appreciate that.
do you want to take pills? Do you want to die out here? Because you can die. What if you sleep with the wrong guy and he gets obsessed with you? I just seen a couple of females that I was cool with. One of them got actually murdered when we were young because the dude got so obsessed with her.
Yeah. That stuff, the DV is real, stalking is real.
I appreciate your message. I was going to ask you, and you gave the message to the people out there listening. And I just need to say, before T closes, that I mean this like genuinely, like no condescending at all. As a person who's worked in the field and have lost so many people who were battling mental health, and as well as HIV, it's inspirational to me to see your stories, to see you as a provider, to see you as somebody. Damo, you are so optimistic, and you have so much positive energy. To see the way you both navigated that, using community, using your resources, it's inspirational to me, and I know it's going to be inspirational to people who are watching in the same situation.
Yes, and I definitely agree with that. I have one more question as we close out. If you both could go back to yourself at the time that you received your diagnosis, right? Go back to that very, very moment of shock and fear and all of those things. What can the healed version or more healed, I don't even know if that's a word, more healed version, it is now, right? What can you as the more healed version of yourself say? What would you say to that person, your younger self, in that moment of like encouragement? Because I heard you say 14. I have 7, so I understand. I heard you say that you struggled, right, with just trying to process and move forward and collectively, but you have done so well, right? And so what do the done so well person, Phil, and Dominique say to the younger version that just received that test result? Because someone's going to be watching this and they're in that moment right now. So what do you say to them?
Well, what I would say to them is learn about your status. Learn harm reduction techniques, safer sex practices, learn and talk to someone, connect with a support system, link to care. Link to care is very important. This is how we're going to get rid of this high rate for HIV and AIDS and the DMV. We got to link these people to care. With the ones that don't want to come out, we got to go to them. We got to have the old Department of Health when they used to knock on your door. Because I've heard the stories when they used to come and knock on your door, put the suit on, and drag you out the house. See, this is what DC needs. Because we have these young men and young girls, they're so promiscuous. Because I hear them talking on the bus.
Yeah.
I hear them talking on the train. I hear them down Gallery Place. I hear them everywhere. Because I remember, I got a 21-year-old son about to go to college. He about to be wild. But guess what?
So he gonna be outside.
He can be wild. He's gonna be wild. He's gonna have to learn. But I am gonna give him the tools to make sure he has what he needs.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm gonna go get him a bag of Magnums and say, look, don't tell me about it. Just use them. If you need some more, let me know.
Come on, mama. No,
Hello?
I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And then I
Dom.
have a 14-year-old, and he's gonna start liking girls. But I'm not worried about that too much. I'm just going to hand out the condoms, tell him about PrEP, and just talk to him. Because my parents didn't talk to me about sex. How I learned about sex was
Learning about it.
doing it with
Learning about it.
Listen, the hands-on method.
Right. Or the job training.
I definitely agree, Dama. I think that's important to kind of listen. You passing it out. It's a very sex positive approach. Like, I respect your agency to choose, and I'm giving you also tools, some different various protection methods. So I appreciate you.
And then they have the Did y'all hear they have the injectable PrEP now?
We did. We did hear about that.
I've been trying to convince a lot of my friends to get on it. The injectable one, so they don't have to take the pills.
Thank you for being an advocate for just community. Letting folks know what's out there, and groundwork makes the streets talk. And so thank you for that. Phil, what about you?
For me, I would say the best is yet to come. One thing I took from the nurse when I went to the Department of Health the day after my 30th birthday, she said it's just a new life. So now look at it, it is a new life because nothing but many doors is open. Like blessings has come from since then. You know what I'm saying? So like many platforms it's just been blessings on blessings on blessings. So that's why I just say the best is yet to come. I'm able to be vulnerable and free. I'm just not your traditional therapist with my clients to where I disclose, but to a certain point.
Yeah.
To where like, and I thank you guys for this platform because it's kind of like saying in our community, like we don't see enough of this where the reason why I share certain things with my clients is let me break this ice where it's like a lot of times in our community, we see providers up here and we're down here. And I'm like, nah, bruh. Nah, it's just like, we the same because just a couple years ago, I was just in your shoes. Yeah. Like come next month on September 19th, I'll celebrate a year of sobriety. Come on now. So like,
Congratulations.
thank you. So like, thank you so much. So like, we the same. Like, don't ever think like your provider is better than you.
Yeah.
Because they got their own stuff going on, just like you do every day. Like life be life, and so
hello. I was gonna say that too.
so yeah. So regardless of which diagnosis or diagnoses or whatever, the best is yet to come. Like,
Hey.
yeah.
What better way to end with that? So thank you for that. So there you have it, folks. Another great episode of Positive Voices. I'm one of your co-hosts, T. Pearson Hall.
I'm Malachi Stewart.
And we were here with our wonderful guests, Ms. Dominique, Mr. Phil. We appreciate you. You want to see more. We know you do. We know you want resources. Malachi, where can they go for resources? It's somewhere they put their zip code in and all of this stuff comes up.
Listen, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're wondering if you can get resources that were talked about today as far as mental health resources. But listen, for any resources, visit us at linkudmv.org, and you can just put your zip code in to find any resources in your area.
Absolutely. And then to watch more episodes of Positive Voices, to connect with folks on social media, head over to
www.dcnshiv.org/podcast.
And that's it. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.